Kamikaze. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear that word? Probably the suicide pilots in World War II who flew their planes like deadly missiles into American battleships. But did you know that the true origin of this terrifying word lies in a mysterious natural catastrophe that swallowed up an empire that had brought the world to its knees in a single night? Exactly 650 years before the invention of airplanes? Today, we will examine how the largest naval invasion army history has ever seen was wiped off the map by a divine wind from the sky without a single samurai drawing a sword. At the end of the 13th century, there was no power in the world that could stand against the Mongols, because they were the most powerful of their time. At the head of this unstoppable war machine, which had conquered China, destroyed Baghdad, and reached the gates of Europe, was Kublai Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan. Kublai's gaze was fixed on one place, the mysterious island in the east, Japan. Kublai Khan sent envoys to the Japanese emperor with a clear message. This message stated, "Submit to us and pay tribute, or we will destroy you." However, the samurai's response was not what the Mongols expected. Their response was harsh. The samurai refused to pay the tribute and beheaded the Mongol envoys. This was a clear declaration of war against the greatest military power in history. The year was 1274. The Mongols reached the Japanese coast with approximately 40,000 soldiers. Japanese samurai were highly skilled in hand-to-hand combat. In honorable and rule-bound warfare, a samurai would step forward, proclaim his name and lineage, and challenge his opponent to a duel. But the Mongols had no rules. They lived without rules. Before the samurai could understand what was happening, they were subjected to a barrage of arrows and primitive gunpowder bombs brought from China that exploded in the sky. The Japanese were completely helpless at this point. But just as the Mongols were about to advance inland, a small typhoon, unusual for that season, arose. Fearing their ships would be beached, the Mongol generals decided to retreat. Even with this decision, they still lost several thousand soldiers in the storm. This was only a fragment of what happened. The failure of the first expedition drove Kublai Khan even more mad. This time, he decided not to leave things to chance. For 7 years, he had new ships built day and night. By 1281, the largest naval invasion army human history would see until the Normandy landings in World War I had been assembled. It included 4,400 ships and more than 140,000 soldiers. Meanwhile, the Japanese had built stone walls along the coast during the previous 7 years, preparing for a suicidal defense. They knew that if this army landed, Japanese civilization and samurai culture would be destroyed forever, erased from history. In weeks of bloody coastal battles, the Japanese managed to keep the Mongols behind the walls, but the Mongol army was not exhausted. In fact, they were resisting, albeit with difficulty. The Japanese manpower was dwindling. When they realized that there was no military hope left, the Japanese emperor and religious leaders locked themselves in temples. For days they prayed to Raijin, the storm god, to protect their homeland. They prayed for miraculous help, and on the night of the 15th of August 1381, the sky suddenly turned black at midnight. The deadliest typhoon of the century, erupting in the depths of the Pacific Ocean, headed directly towards Hakata Bay, the heart of the Mongol fleet. For 2 days, the colossal storm, which did not cease, tossed the Mongols' massive ships, chained together like paper, against the rocks. The sea echoed with the screams of the soldiers. The next morning, the storm had subsided. After the storm, not a single intact Mongol ship remained in the bay. Almost 80% of the 140,000 soldiers had been lost in the depths of the ocean. The Japanese gave this miraculous rescue a single name, Kamikaze, that is, divine wind. The Kamikaze storm marked the beginning of the end for the Mongol Empire. After this blow, the Mongols never again attempted an overseas invasion. It was a bitter and deadly lesson for them. However, this storm sowed the seeds of a dangerous idea in the collective memory of the Japanese. Whenever Japan is cornered, the gods send a wind to save us, they thought. That's why, in 1944, as Japan was heading towards a decisive defeat against the American army, the desperate military regime revived that ancient legend. As they put young pilots in planes and sent them to their deaths, they told them, "You are the modern kamikazes." They were the new divine winds that would blow from the sky and save the country. But this time, no wind came from the sky. History shows us that sometimes nature can have incredible coincidences that destroy empires. But if you turn a miracle into an ideology and try to copy it from humans, all that remains is tragedy.